Thank you very much. Welcome all to the meeting of the Employment Committee this evening. I'm not going to go through the evacuation procedure because everybody here knows it and can read. It is being live streamed though, and I would ask that everybody turn off their mobile phones or set them to silent for the course of the meeting because it's good practice. Item 2, I've got apologies from Councillor Watkins, and Councillor Wilson is running about 30 minutes late, so he'll join us when he can. Item 3, the minutes. Is everybody happy with the minutes in the agenda? Yes, Chair. So I'll move those. Councillor Walmsley, you second them. Any objections? Nope. So I'll sign those later on after the meeting. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations that are not in the agenda? From the three of us who are here, no. Public consultation. Any public consultation? Nope. None that I'm aware of. So item 6, the HR metrics report. Ruth, would you like to present the report as the HR business partner?
Thank you, Chair. So this report just details some information around key areas of the HR service. Happy to take any questions or comments, and whether there's anything that the committee would like to see in the future on the report as well.
Thank you very much, Ruth. So does any member wish to speak on this report? Does anybody have any comments? Thank you. Director Shardley.
Just a factual point. Appendix A references the HR team structure as it is now, but as of the 1st of April, it will be revised. That's been approved by... to repeat that, so Appendix A references the HR team structure as it is now, but from the 1st of April, it has been revised with all posts reporting into a new head of service post and the deletion of the corporate HR business partner.
Thanks very much, Director Shardlow. This is a very useful report, Ruth, in terms of doing compare and contrast with some of our neighbouring authorities. I don't know if the committee agrees with me, it might be useful for the next report to include some of the more OSP-style data, or what we get in the quarterly performance report to Cabinet, so we can see as a breakdown in terms of our departments. So if there are problem departments, we might then be able to investigate further, because this is a really useful dashboard for the entire authority. But I think that part of the committee's remit, if the committee agrees with me, is to sort of start trying to troubleshoot, that might be the wrong word, some of the specific problems we've got, rather than sort of asking general questions about the headline figures. We'll be able to pick it up from the more granular data. So apart from that, it's a very good report. Thank you very much for that, Ruth. And we'll move on to the next item, which is the pay policy statement. So that's you again, please, Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the updated pay policy statement for 2022, which is required under the Localism Act, and it's just asking for approval and then to move forward to full council.
Thank you, Ruth. Members may have a sense of déjà vu on this one, because we had to approve the previous pay policy statement at the last committee, but this one is the updated one with the new structure that we've implemented. So does any member wish to speak on that? Right, I'll move it from the chair. Is there a seconder? Councillor Walmsley. Any objections? Nope. So that is carried. So item 8, the training and development report. Ruth?
Thank you. So this was a report that was requested at the last committee. It just gives an overview of the training and development offering from the council. And again, any questions or queries are welcome.
Does any member wish to speak on that? Does any member have any comment? Councillor Walmsley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just looking through, obviously, the more broad statement, what is the uptake like from our employees in terms of actually taking up the offering? Because I can see there's quite a reasonable offering, and I'm just wondering whether it's something that actually is the uptake is good, or if there's any learning we can do to try and do that. You know, I think certainly I know that we are looking to move towards a culture more of empowerment of staff, particularly those that are on those kind of front lines, initial more public-facing roles. And I think, you know, a big part of that is upskilling the workforce and upskilling everybody who works for us, and that's something we should do as continuing professional development anyway. So really just wondering what the kind of performance, the uptake of this is. Have we had any particular drop down in uptake, maybe due to COVID or other pressures, for example, like that? And have we got a plan as we're moving out of this COVID period to try and really have a renewed focus on that side?
Okay, so if I deal with management training specifically, so just to begin with, there was in the previous report on the metrics data, there is something in there in terms of the attendance for management training, which has dropped off due to the pandemic. And you know, there's been a move from face-to-face training to online training, and specifically with management training, previously it was a course per policy, whereas now we have a three and a half day being the manager course, which is open to both managers and aspiring managers, which deals with all of that, and they deal with it all in one cohort. And that uptake and the feedback for that course has been very positive. In terms of other courses, the uptake is generally quite good. Certainly in terms of our apprenticeship levy, we use that quite actively to upskill current staff. And I think since it started, we've had approximately 30 current staff that have gone through that, in addition to new start apprenticeships. So yes, it is quite positive.
Thanks, Ruth. Does any other member have any comments? I had a question. It talks about mentoring and how we use West Midlands employers for that. Have we ever considered setting up internal mentoring schemes? Because I know they've been really positive, certainly at employers I've worked at, and we do have some very long-serving members of staff, but we do occasionally have something of an issue in terms of either upskilling new members of staff or recruiting people at the start of their careers. Have we ever considered doing something internally so that knowledge is passed on and people can be sort of grounded in the organisation?
So in terms of the West Midlands coaching pool, part of that is that we do actually have trained internal coaches. One of those is our monitoring officer, Phil Richardson, and the uptake on coaching generally is not great. However, we're pushing that. We also use mentoring as part of the apprenticeships as well for new starts, so they are assigned a mentor as part of that. But yes, I agree, it is something that we need to push on, and we will be pushing the coaching pool again.
Thank you. And the other comment I was going to make was, unless I've missed it in the report, could you just talk us through what do we offer in terms of study packages, in terms of external qualifications? So, for example, if you want to do your accountancy courses, would we offer ACCA as part of, well, I've forgotten the rest of the qualifications now, as part of the package? Because I know that in terms of hiring people are willing to take something of a less competitive pay if they're going to get what would otherwise be a very expensive piece of study. So would you talk us through that, please?
So yes, we make use of the apprenticeship levy for that, and the roles are advertised accordingly. We also have a post-entry training scheme for some more of those higher level external courses, if you like, and we also make use of career graded roles, so when they're advertised it's clear that actually you will progress through and we will pay and fund for your training. So we do already do that.
So I suppose the next question is, what is the uptake on that? Following Councillor Walmsley's question is, like, are we pushing that enough with our staff and sort of advertising it as part of the, is it having a noticeable impact in terms of our recruitment?
Okay, so career graded roles, we've got those in planning, for example. The uptake is quite good in there. We've got them in legal as well. So yes, actually that does prove that we are able to recruit and retain staff there. In terms of post-entry training, we have an annual budget for that. It is available all year round, but we launch it in May, which coincides with sort of a September start in terms of approvals, and generally that budget is spent every year.
That's good, so we don't need to cut it then up. Councillor Walmsley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just out something that Ruth just said there about we have quite good uptake in legal and in planning, but I thought one of the departments we were struggling to recruit for and retain in was the planning department. So, without going off on a tangent, do we think this is actually really working, and are people making benefit of this, and are we highlighting that enough potentially at the point of recruitment as well? Is there more we could do with that? Because I think what Councillor Croft says is right, and I've seen it in other organisations where if I'm with this organisation for 2 or 3 years, as part of that I could look to potentially get an external qualification funded that may otherwise be 5, 6 to somebody doing it themselves, £5,000-6,000, where people may not have that chunk of money to spend in a single go. And I'm just thinking, if that is still one of our difficult to recruit departments, this is something that we're already offering, are we perhaps making that clear enough at advert stage? Are there things we can do there to learn from other departments where we're not having necessarily so much of a difficult time recruiting to get that learning across? I appreciate that's partly on the report and partly a slightly more broad question about that department, but it was just following up from that specific point you're saying about.
Okay, so to take planning in particular, my understanding is it's more the principal planning officer roles that we struggle to recruit to. Career graded, where they come in at entry level, is quite successful. Without the data, it's hard to say, but I would say that they work their way through the career grade, they gain the experience, they gain the qualification, and then the offer from elsewhere potentially is attractive. So we get them in at career graded, definitely, and they pass their qualifications and they stay with us for a number of years. It's following that we have the issue.
Yeah, just to echo that, so we discussed that management team this week, and sort of junior entry-level jobs in planning are okay. Once they're fully qualified, able to be sort of poached or marketed externally, that's the point where retention becomes an issue, and market forces around pay can come into that. So it's not so much the getting the new folk in and training them, it's the retention thereafter, because the market is very, very competitive.
Thank you, Chair. I guess a follow-up on that then also is as well with taking the point about the entry grade and working through. But and I think a lot of the focus on that upskilling was still to do with the junior levels, but there is still things that can be done at those senior levels, particularly for example, looking into chartered memberships, chartered fellowships, those kind of levels, which would probably appeal more to somebody at a principal planning level and equivalent across the entire organisation. So to what extent are we also using those external professional and maybe where necessary chartered qualifications as an enticement package as well for those that are not necessarily those kind of entry progression levels, but actually as an incentive for the more senior level as well?
Yes, so we do offer that across the board as well. So we expect all our senior managers to have at least a management level at qualification at level 5, which we will put them through if they don't have that. We also have had people that have gone for charter status and funded by the council. So we do offer that at the higher level as well.
Yeah, just to pick up a small point that actually Councillor Croft mentioned to do with coaching and mentoring. I mean, this all seems to be to do with knowledge management, really, and a lot of it is about giving people the skills as they join us and move on. But I think it's crucial that we also look at end of career knowledge management, where people who are leaving can effectively download their knowledge to those people who are coming up behind. Otherwise, we end up in a situation where we have people leave and there's a knowledge gap because they've taken their skills with them and their experience, and it hasn't been passed on. So I think we do need to look at how we use coaching and mentoring to make sure that we do have a sort of a whole career knowledge management, and that we don't lose valuable skills and experience when people leave.
Sorry. Yes, so it is something we try to utilise. Obviously, that's with the mutual consent of parties, obviously. So where we have career graded roles or apprenticeships, it is often the senior members of staff that are mentoring them through that.
So I suppose the only other comment and I suppose this would be a request for an opinion, I don't know if it's right to do this in public, is there scope to, no, that's not the right question. Do you feel there's demand in the HR department to increase the resource for these sorts of qualifications if the budget is spent every year? Do you think that's something that we could usefully look at? It's trying trying to phrase it in such a way that I'm not asking you to like direct policy, but is there scope to do that, do you feel, and could it be usefully done?
I think yes, if budget allows, but there is also scope to make better use of our apprenticeship levy fund, because that does cover courses from level 2 all the way up to level 8, which I'm not sure is well known. It is obviously the route does take longer that way, but of course that means we retain the staff for longer. But it is a budget that's quite large, because obviously we pay that through payroll, and that is quite underspent, despite us having quite a number of individuals that have gone through that. So,
thank you very much, Ruth. So, if no other member has any comments, I will move that we note the report. Is there a second? Councillor Brown was first, so any objection? It's like the Chuckle Brothers down there. Right, item 9, the human resources policy documents. Would you like to take them one by one, or should we do them as a job lot? Ruth.
okay, so as you're aware from the last committee, our policies are reviewed on a 3-year basis. So the policies coming forward today are for a family-related leave policy, which is actually a new policy, but it combines several other policies such as maternity and paternity. As part of the family-related leave policy in particular, we're looking to enhance the payments. Currently we pay, for example, on maternity, 12 weeks at half pay as occupational maternity pay, and we're looking to increase that to 18 weeks. That would be effective for anyone that is taking maternity leave on or after the 1st of April 2022. The other policies within there that have just simply been reviewed are the attendance management policy and the alcohol and substance misuse policy. All policies are shared with the unions for consultation. No comments have been received on these policies. The Employment Committee report is also shared with all staff, and again, no further comments have been received.
Thank you, Ruth. Does any member wish to speak or comment on this? Well, it seems to me that this is, I'm very pleased with the family leave policy, because it's exactly the sort of rationalisation and making policies more logical and more understandable that we're about as part of the general programme of corporate governance reform. So it's extremely useful to have it all in the same place and in one document. And I'm particularly pleased that we are increasing maternity pay, because it's going to be one of the issues in the next 10 or 20 years that we do need to make it easier and cheaper for people to have children, and employers should be encouraging that as much as possible. So does any member wish to speak on these policies? Right, in which case I will move that we approve them and note the report as 2.1 and 2.2. Councillor Walmsley seconded that. All those in favour? Positively approved. Right, thank you very much. Item 10, any other items? Right, my apologies for the lateness of this, because it wasn't until Tuesday that I realised that we'd forgotten to include a draft work programme in the agenda. So seems to, there we go. It seems to me that this is a logical approach to take. Over the summer we're going to be stepping up the work on our transformation programme, and the people strategy will be a big part of that. So I suppose it's open for questions and comments from the floor, but otherwise I think this is a logical way forward. So, any member? Right, in which case Councillor Walmsley move that, I'll second that. All those in favour? Right, thank you very much. So item 9, the exclusion of the public and the press, I will move that from the chair. Would anyone like to second that? Councillor Brown second that. I will just point out that the two, not the two directors, because the director is here, but Director Shardlow will have to leave us when we go into private session, because the item under discussion will concern him. But so having moved it, I'll move to the vote. So all those in favour? Right, that's carried. So could we switch off the live stream, please, Victoria? Thank you. No need to be worried about.